to my party, we're just getting started. A life is a dream or a nightmare scarring. Hand me a drink cause I think I'm going all in. Get me a shrink who can catch me when I'm falling. Cover up my scars, flip the handlebars, crashing in my car, wake up in a bar. I'll be a superstar, just on my avatar. This world is so bizarre, empty out the reservoir. Yeah, I'm taking 6 shots, yeah, straight to the face. And I wanna get lost, I'm sick of this place. Don't know how to stop when I'm feeling this way. So I'm taking 6 shots till I'm feeling okay. I think I'm going crazy, don't think I'll get home safe. So I'm taking 6 shots all straight to the face. I'm taking 6 shots, are you coming with me? I'm taking 6 shots, yeah, straight to the face. And I wanna get lost, I'm sick of this place. Don't know how to stop when I'm feeling this way. So I'm taking 6 shots till I'm feeling okay. I think I'm going crazy, don't think I'll get home safe. So I'm taking 6 shots all straight to the face. I'm taking 6 shots, are you coming with?
And welcome everyone to the Man Cave. My name is Paul Knapp, and I will be your host for tonight's show. This is season number 1, episode number 16, and waiting in the green room is my good friend, the guy who got me started in collecting years and years and years ago, Mr. George Guerriero. But before we get to him, you are going to introduce my panel for tonight. And starting in the great state of Michigan, we have to have the Padre with us tonight. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, sir?
Are you in a good mood or a bad mood? What's the mood tonight? On the medication or off the medication? How are you doing?
Yes, I'm doing good.
All right. And to keep us in line, we have a pastor with us tonight, other than the Padre. This guy's up for the Pope's position now, so he might
watch out.
Toy photographer specialist, Mr. Joe Baker. How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing great.
Joe.
Glad you could join us tonight. Sorry about last week. I left you hanging there, man. I forgot to tell you there was no show last week.
No problem.
And just recently back from his surgery, from his penis reduction surgery, that is, we have Mr. Rick Bradshaw. Rick, how did that surgery go?
You said you weren't going to mention that. What can I say?
I had to explain why you were late tonight. You had that quick surgery and came back.
It was penisless. Painless. It was
painless.
Oh, Rick!
We are picking up where we left off last night, aren't we?
You started it.
Yes.
So hopefully,
Joe's going to sign off. Good night.
For those of you that saw the show last night, our G.I. Joe show kind of went off the rails. Well, hell, right at the beginning. We didn't even get to our guest speaker. And
the whole show
went off the rails. And then he came on, and it just kept going off the rails. But it was a good night. We had a good time.
Yeah, it was a good show.
I don't know if Stacy remembers it all after.
Oh, I remember.
You remember it?
I remember some, and then I went back to look at it, and I still don't remember even all of what I saw. So,
yeah.
Before we go around the room, I'm going to say hi to everybody in the chat room. We got Ronald McDonald joining us from the UK. Thanks, Ronald. First one here tonight. Paul B was waiting for this last night, so he's excited about tonight. We got Moondoggy again. My sister in Pennsylvania, she's excited. She's here again. Michelle D, she says, I'm here. Patrick Grain, he's been texting me all week. Can't wait to talk to George. So George is in the green room, and he's ready to rock and roll. Who else we got? Big Boss Jack.
Yeah.
Lone Wolf. Am I missing anybody? Oh, we got Mark. Mark's here. Thanks, Mark. Says, hey, guys.
Moondoggy says we need holy water. What does that mean?
Well, between the Padre and Joe, I mean, they're both pastors. One of them's got to have some holy water, right?
You mean coffee?
Michelle made it on time tonight. Jeez.
Say that?
Late yesterday.
Yeah.
No excuses.
Michelle says she's on time tonight. All right. All right, well, let's go around the room and say what's new in your zoo. I'm going to go with you first, Joe, because I talked to these two guys last night, and I know what's new in their zoo. So give us something new since we talked to you in, 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks, I guess?
Yeah, well, you remember when Patrick Grain was on the show. He mentioned he wanted that Conti figure of the Marine with the Lewis gun. And since I had one, I sent it to him, and he wanted to send me something. And so I said, well, I'd love to have one of those 3D printed vehicles, something that 21st Century or Forces of Valor hadn't done. And he said, okay, I can do that. I can get that and paint it, and I'll send that to you. And I thought that was overly generous, but I got the package the other day, and he not only had this little beauty, if you can see it or not. I don't
That's
know how you
3D printed?
Yeah,
Is that
3D printed. He painted it.
Wow, nice. Yeah,
Very nice.
that's great.
Wow, that's nice.
I don't know if I can get it the right angle or not, but it's the short one. It's not like a Hanamag. That's a 251 SDKZ or whatever it is. This is a 250.
Wow.
And
yep, right there.
And so I'm very pleased with that. But I mentioned 3 things that that I thought of that hadn't been made, and he didn't just send me the one. He sent me also
look at that.
a camo bug.
Camo bug.
And then, I mentioned I really wanted a basic car.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
This one too.
And he painted those for you?
He painted those. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
nice.
I mean,
nice.
Over generous, over talented.
Oh yeah.
Super guy. So shout out to Patrick, and I hopefully I'll have some pictures of them in action sometime. We'll show those. So
definitely, man.
Very nice.
Those are nice. True 1/32 scale too, right?
They are. The VW feels a little small, but the others are perfect.
Yeah. Very cool.
Whoa, very nice.
All right, can you guys keep it to 1/32 stuff tonight, or are we going to go into 1/6?
How dare you? I have an army man. I do. I have one.
A army man?
Just one. Yeah.
We're gonna have to send him some stuff.
Secret courier.
See, I knew you were going to go there. Man. Hey, well, we were talking to George backstage, and he said he's got a ton of 1/6 scale. He's got to sell, man. Maybe you can buy it up from him.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah, he was saying.
And he bought some collection, so maybe you'll talk about that tonight.
Okay.
That's cool. Yeah.
So is that what you're showing us tonight? That
was it. That was it. Secret courier, all original, 73.
Wow. Okay. Yep. Are you selling anything at the show?
Me?
Kentuckiana, if you go.
No.
You're just going.
If I can work, I'm going to try to work. But if not, I'm just going to. We'll do a show, and I'll just be to help other guys out. Whatever,
Yeah.
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right. Somebody's phone's ringing.
I'm there to buy too, though.
Oh yeah, I gave Ace a list of stuff, so I'm hoping I can. He get some of that for me.
Well, you should. He's got a lot of stuff. He has it.
Patrick Grain said he sees the Ultraman back there. Do you ever know?
Yep.
That's.
Oh yeah, I see it right in the middle. Yeah. Ultraman.
That's the Captain.
Yeah, that's Captain Action. Yeah.
Okay.
Got that from Japan.
Right on. All right, Rick, it's your turn, buddy. What you got? You got anything military-ish?
Yeah. Is anyone familiar with Russ Arundel from Facebook?
Yes.
Joe, you know him, and he posts in Toy Soldier Photography and Toy Soldier Collector. He posts in my group, The Playhouse, and he likes to do these composite pictures usually using 1/18 scale figures. And he does military, he does cowboys, and he mixes in science fiction sometimes and different things. So he sent me one of his books. He produces these books, and this is Weird Western Tales. And he does these with Steve, what's his name? Steve Woodrum. And they use their photographs. This is one of Russ's photographs that he did. And they create fictional stories. And I believe Russ mixes in historical stuff too. And Russ is a militaria collector, so he's very knowledgeable about uniforms and guns and weapons and stuff like that. And he regularly visits the battlefields in the U.S. for the Western stuff. And he photographs them. And a picture like this, he photographs them and then puts in his his figures on the real battlefield.
No way.
And so what he creates these books, and if you see there's a fictional story, a fictional picture, and then an actual picture of like something from the past, a coat that they used to wear or something like that.
Yeah.
There's one of his photos there with a historical person.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting, and he'll make like 10 of these, and they're for sale. Unfortunately, they're expensive. He sent me this, and we're traded, and I'm gonna send him something in return.
Oh.
Really neat though.
Yeah.
High quality.
Blood on the text.
In the back, which I didn't know he did this. So he's got a fella, Jason Pescia, who's new in my playhouse. He does some great
toy photography. Yeah.
Photography, and he loves these Dime Novel Legends figures. That's what I use also. So this is some of Jason's photos.
Neat.
That top one with the sun in the back, that's all practical. That sun is really there.
Yeah, no Photoshop here. Yeah.
Nope. And he's a newbie kinda. And
Really?
he's just winging it, and he really does amazing work. And then here's some of my stuff that
you got in a book. Look at
I
you.
got in the book. Yeah.
Very cool.
I might have to get a copy and have you sign it now.
You can buy mine.
Everything's for sale, according to you last night on Jeff's show. Everything's for sale.
You need to change your little ID thing at the bottom. You need to Rick the Liquidator or something. I don't know.
But look for Russ Arundel's stuff in the Toy Soldier Photography. He always posts in there, and he's on Instagram. I think it's just Russ Arundel. He's a cool guy. He's an interesting guy. So that's what I got.
Very cool.
That's it.
Yeah, keeping it short and sweet tonight. I like that. I got one little video I got to show you guys, and I'll just pop it up here. I'm gonna stop it. Our show tonight is sponsored by Toy Soldier Central. Did I tell you guys that earlier?
Oh, look
The
at that.
best place for toy soldiers. Yes. So he's sponsoring our show tonight. I just dropped the video on the new sets that I just purchased from them. So check it out. And check this out.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Did you see this already?
Yes.
So this was our show last night, and somebody sent this to me. And the individual might be in the chat room right now. I'm not going to say, but see if I can turn the volume up. And
this guy's skipping school tonight and joining us. This is Mr. Angelo Deannabelle. Hello, everybody.
Hey, Angelo.
Hey, happy Monday.
so the cat loves to watch our show.
Or the
And,
cat loves Angelo.
or Angelo, yeah. That came from Dan DiBiase. That was his cat. And he said the cat watches the show with them every Monday night. That was kind of cool. And, of course, this weekend, I said it last night, but I'm going to say it again. I'll be at the Gettysburg Toy Soldier Show Sunday, May 4th. If you guys are there, if you guys can make it, make sure you stop at my table and say hi. And without any further ado, does anybody else need to say anything before I bring in our special guest?
Nope.
Nobody? Joe, going once, going twice?
No.
All right.
Nope.
All right, man. We're going to bring in my buddy a brother from another mother. I've known you since what, 1998, 1999? This is my buddy, Joe Guerriero. Woo!
No.
What's up, Joe?
Wait a minute, what?
What's up, George? How you doing, brother?
I'm great. How are you?
Outstanding, man. Well, we were talking backstage for a little bit. We were trying to narrow down that date, man. I think it was 98, man. 99.
Yeah, it was definitely the Dedham show. That I remember.
Denim show. Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
wow.
And it used to be the New England Toy Soldier Society used to run it. It was
I
a
used to-
club.
I used to go to that show years ago.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
The Holiday Inn.
I used to.
Okay.
I was always looking for Joe's stuff, and would usually find something there.
Yeah, something for everyone. That's for sure.
So where do you want to start tonight, man? This is your show, brother. I mean, we just kind of bring you in and you just do your thing, you know. So
Well, we can talk about how I got involved in this and how it
Yeah.
kind of led to a business and all that other good stuff.
Yeah, let's start there, man. Like, what got you started in the toy soldier?
Well, as we talked about, I was child of the '60s, and myself and all my friends and my cousins, we all had the Mox play sets, the Britton's Swappets, the Tempo Swappets, Transagram, MPC, all that good stuff. And then when I got a little older, for some reason, I just got really interested in the HO scale, the Airfix. I think the box art is kind of what did it, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Actually, when I was a little kid, I thought that what was on the box was what you got, and that didn't quite worked out. But it was a lot of fun. And I had a cousin that he and I used to get together and do these big carpet battles with the Airfix figures, and I just liked them because you could do a lot in a smaller space. And I know I hear that from people all the time that, they wish they could do bigger displays with the 1/32 scale. But with what I do, I can do a 9x5 display and I can have 4,000 figures on it.
Yeah. So you're talking a 1/72 scale back then.
Yep. And then I kind of got out of the hobby when I got into high school, and I drifted away from it for about 10 years. And then my cousin kind of reached out to me and we started talking, and he said, "Remember those Airfix figures we had when we were kids?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Do you still have them?" I go, "Well, unless my parents tossed them, they're still up in the attic." So he sent me Jamie Delson's catalog, the Toy Soldier Company.
Mm-hmm.
And in the back, I saw all the Airfix figures, and I saw the prices. And I said, I think I'm a millionaire. Went to my parents' house and dug them out. And then I just started looking at them, and I just remembered all the fun I had with them. And I reached out to my cousin and I said, "They don't still make these, do they?" And he goes, "Are you kidding? You've missed out on a lot of stuff." So I said, "Well, do they have any stores?" And he said, "Yeah, there's a place in Malden called Excalibur Hobbies. That's the store that Bill Murphy owned." So I went up there and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was a whole store dedicated to toy soldiers, and he had wargaming and model kits too, but he had a whole aisle of HO. And I was like, "Oh wow, this is interesting." So I got back into it, and then a couple of years later, I used to be in the store like almost every Saturday. So one day, Bill comes out of the back and he says, "You here again? I should put you to work." And I said, "I'll work here if you want me to." He's like, "You kidding me?" I go, "Yeah, why not?" On the weekends, and I started working for Bill, and then I started going to the shows with him, and I couldn't believe the shows, how huge they were, and how much stuff was there, and then a couple of years after that, I went out on my own, and that's kind of how the whole thing started. And believe me when I tell you, when I started, I had a full-time job, and this was just fun money. Whatever money I made, I was just doing shows. This was pre-internet too. No websites, no nothing.
Yeah.
So I started doing the shows, and then my cousin told me about this thing called the internet, and I built a website. Well, I should say he built it, and it just exploded. And Joe can attest to right around the time that King and Country started doing the matte finish metal.
Right.
That's when I picked up King and Country, and the rest is history. And I quit my job and I did it full time, and I've been doing it full time ever since.
Oh,
Man.
nice.
So what year would that have been? King and Country.
We were talking. I think I was doing it full time around 2000 because I was carrying Conti then as well. But 2001 is when I picked up King and Country, and that fall is when I quit my job and I did this full time.
Wow, dude.
I couldn't do both. I was too busy to be able to do a
Yeah.
full-time job. So I quit, and that didn't go over too well with a lot of people at the time. But, like, who's laughing now? You know what I mean?
Right.
It worked out. It worked out.
Nice.
Wow.
Cool.
Living the dream, bro. That's what we all want to do.
Well, it's funny too. When I was a kid in middle school, I had to do a project, and it was like you had to start a business, and you had to do accounts receivable, accounts payable, invoices, and purchasing. And the name of my I wanted to own a store, a toy soldier store. The name of the store was Minutemen Toy Soldiers.
So you just kept the name? Is that what you did?
Yeah, I guess it's been in my blood ever since.
Wow, that's funny.
Childhood dreams.
Just funny the way how things they just kind of work out. I mean, what if my cousin never made that phone call? You know, and got me back into the hobby. And then what if Bill never offered me the job and I never got into the business? So it's just I'm just a firm believer of everything happens for a reason. And it's been a great ride, and it's just I'm a lucky guy. I consider myself to be very lucky.
Wow.
Now, how did you become a dealer? How did you transition from a collector to a dealer?
What had happened was I had spoken to Jim and Dave from Classic Toy Soldiers, and I told them that I was going to be going to the shows. So they gave me an account. I mean, I had a partner when I first started. It was myself and another guy. And we were just a couple of nobodies, really. But Jim kind of believed in me, and he gave me an account. And then I opened up another account with a wholesaler in New Jersey that sold plastic model kits and boxed plastic and things like that. So again, in the beginning, I mean, trust me, going full time with this wasn't the plan. It was just, let me just make a few dollars going to the shows, and then whatever money I make, that'll fund my hobby. And I think maybe doing it that way without a lot of pressure of this has got to work kind of a thing, it just kind of worked on its own. Then as, you know, again, as I mentioned with Joe, I was doing the Chicago show, and Andy Nielsen from King of Country used to come in my room all the time. And Joe can attest to this. I used to paint a lot of scenery to dress the room up to make it look nice. And Andy would always jokingly say, boy, this terrain would look really good with metal toy soldiers. You know what I mean? And I finally took the hint and started carrying King and Country. And that was right around the time that matte finish metal just exploded. You had Conti, you had King and Country, you had Britton's at the time that was doing matte finish metal. And I was very lucky that a lot of my plastic customers kind of transitioned to metal. And don't get me wrong, a lot of my plastic guys stayed with the plastic, and, you know, that's what they like. But a lot of my guys switched to metal, and it's just timing. It's like with any business, right? It's all about timing. And I was right there when the metal thing took off. And, you know, it was just amazing to see it, and how you'd go to these shows and there's just be hundreds and hundreds of people buying. And then they started buying mail order from me, but I still kept doing the shows. That was really the way that I made a name for myself. I used to do, because I was thinking about this when Paul asked me to join the show. At one point, I was doing about 30 shows a year.
Wow.
Really?
So, I mean, sometimes I do 4 in a row. Sometimes I do one on Saturday, one on Sunday.
Oh, wow.
But the thing is, they were all well attended. They were all money makers, and I went as far south as Virginia and as far west as Chicago. A lot of shows in the tri-state area. But yeah, I was really hustling.
Your room was always one of the best marketing rooms at the Chicago show. Your displays and the breadth of stuff you had, plus your personality, was just always one of my favorite stops there.
I just like to have fun. You know what I mean, Joe? But to Joe's point, like, one of the things I noticed when I was going to the shows with Bill was I'd see all these boxes of figures with the lids off and just the figures in the box. And I was like, they look nice, but there's no juice there. So Form Tech had just started, and they had all these nice foam terrain pieces. And I started poking around and finding like 1/35th scale building kits from Verlinden and other places like that. So I just started painting all this scenery, and then I would set all the figures up, and I would one end of my display would be ancients, and it would work all the way around the other side to World War II. I just wanted to spark people's imagination and just show them, hey, look, this is what you can do. Just buy a few buildings and some trees and a bridge, and you can make a nice shelf display. But I was all about eye candy. I thought it was really important to show somebody what the potential is with the soldiers. That was that was my thing. I just I wanted to give people something that the wow factor. I used to love when I did the Chicago show and I was downstairs and Don Palin gave me the spot right in the front when you came through the doors downstairs. And I just always got a kick out of the look on people's faces when they walked into that room and saw my display. It made me feel good that, Joe can tell you, I mean, it certainly wasn't easy to set all those figures up. I just really got a kick out of it, and it really pushed me to keep upping my game and doing more creative displays.
I mean, that's going back to the old Mark's store displays, right? I mean, that's
right.
That's how we saw it in the store, man. You saw the store display, and you're like, man, that's better than looking at a box, You're like, shit.
Yeah, there was a store I used to go in when I was a kid. I'll never forget the battleground they had hanging on the wall with all the figures, and they were all attached to it. And I just thought that was it. I was like, can I buy that? And the guy's like, no, that's a display only. I was like, okay. But, I've seen some of those at shows for sale, and I just thought it was the coolest thing, that they were still around.
Cool.
Questions?
Nice rifleman set you have there behind you.
Oh yeah, I was gonna.
Oh yeah,
I think I got to flip
I have a local customer that is downsizing his collection, and he had a whole bunch of Mox play sets. He had about a dozen of them, and Jim McGuff from CTS helped me kind of figure prices, and I just wasn't really sure what a fair number would be. So I just said to the guy, look, if you're agreeable to this, I'll take the sets. I'll do some more research on them, and I'll price them out, and whatever I get for them, we'll split it. And he said, if you want to do that, that's fine. So I'm in the process of going through them and checking them out, and eventually they're going to be on eBay. I'm going to put them up. I don't do auctions. I just do buy it nows.
Okay.
Well, Stacy and Rick had questions about the 1/6 scale you got in. So
yeah. So what do you have for the 1/6 scale that you're gonna be liquidating?
There's quite a few Dragon World War II figures. There's some 21st century figures. There are some the G.I. Joe stuff, but it's not the older stuff. And then I've got some vehicles too. The vehicles are out of the boxes. And again, that was another collection that they're just coming at me left, right, and center. But I took them as part of the deal, and I just said to myself, I'll get to them eventually. Again, it's just a process where you got to research it, and then you just list them on eBay one at a time. They're all in the boxes, so it should be pretty easy to sell them. But I've got like the 21st century, I think it's that Stuart tank. I've got that 1/6 scale. It's all shrink wrapped.
Nice.
Yeah, it doesn't have the box, but it's all shrink wrapped.
So you say you're getting a lot of collections. People are getting rid of their stuff. Yes.
Well, there's a variety of reasons for it. I mean, a lot of my customers have had skin in the game for a long time, and there's so much new product coming out that is of interest that, I'm sure you can understand. A lot of guys have the mentality of, if I can't display it, I don't want it. So if their displays are maxed out, but they see stuff that they want, the only way around that is to start selling some of the other stuff that maybe the shine wore off the apple, and they want to move it. I got some guys doing that. Unfortunately, I have other people that they're selling their homes, they're downsizing. You know, they don't want to pack it all up and bring it to wherever they're going and
Yeah.
set it all up again. So they're selling it. And then, you know, very sadly, we have, you know, Father Time is undefeated, and you've got guys that their health isn't what it should be. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, there's others that are, you know, passing away.
Yeah.
And it bothers me because, you know, I know a lot of these people and they were customers of mine. And,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
when I was, you know, as Paul can attest to, I mean, when I started in the business, I was in my 30s and all my customers were in their 20s and 30s and 40s. And you
Yeah.
never thought about what's going to happen down the road. And now I'm seeing it, and, you know, it's just, it's reality, but it doesn't mean I have to like it.
Right.
Are you, can I ask you, it's a personal question. How old are you?
64.
Ah, so we grew up in the exact same time. I'm 65. So when you said you were playing with this stuff in the 60s, so was I. You know, we had all the toy soldiers around. I had 4 older brothers, and we had an HO train set up in the basement. And I loved, my favorite figures were the French Foreign Legion, the little 172nd Foreign
Yep.
Legion.
Yeah, I remember I was a kid. We were down on the Cape with my family, and that movie, the Guy Stockwell, Telly Savalas, Bo Jess came on.
Yep.
And then the next day we're in the Cape Cod Mall and we're in Sears, and there's the Airfix Foreign Legion and the Arabs. I was like, perfect timing. But yeah, I love that second version set. The first version looked a lot like the Union infantry that they did, but the second version, Foreign Legion, were really nice figures.
Yeah.
Really nice.
And they fit with the train great, you know, like the old style locomotive. Yeah, they were cool.
Yeah, it's funny. My dad, when you mentioned the trains, my dad had a big layout in our basement.
Yep.
And that's part of why I got into the HO, because he did like a little section that was like almost like a World War II thing, kind of like Von Ryan's Express. And that's kind of how I got into the HO. It was a lot had to do with my dad.
Yep. Yep. Awesome.
He had a question here from Patrick Grain, and I don't know if you can see that. Do you still enjoy collecting, or are you more just focused on being a dealer?
Okay, so it's a great question. What I collect is, as I said, I started with the HO. That kind of became my thing as I got older. Then when I got back into the hobby and I started buying all these HO sets again, you know, now I'm in my late 20s, and I'm saying to myself, you know, like, I'm not going to do with these what I did when I was a kid and have these carpet battles, right? So what had happened was, and Paul, you mentioned it, somebody told me about this wargaming show in Lancaster called Historicon. They said, oh, if you're into the small scale, you should check this show out. So I went there, and I just couldn't believe what I saw. There was all these companies that did 20 millimeter metal figures and vehicles and buildings. And I think at that show, no exaggeration, I probably spent $3,000 or $4,000. I just went crazy. And then I started painting them.
I know how that goes.
And at the present time, I sold off all my boxed plastic, you know, when I became a dealer that I had bought. It just didn't do it for me, because I just didn't want to be painting plastic. And I like the whole wargaming aspect of it, you know, like the setting it all up. So I started buying all these metal figures. And to answer Patrick's question, because I thought about this, you know, when you ran the interview by me. Okay, so I've got about 10,000 Napoleonics. I've got 5,000 Civil War, 5,000 Franco-Prussian War, 5,000 First Sudan War, and about 5,000 World War II. My World War II interest goes from Stalingrad to Berlin on the Eastern Front, and then D-Day to Berlin on European theater, and the Pacific from Guadalcanal on. I don't do North Africa. So that's my World War II collection. I've got hundreds of tanks, and I've got buildings and bunkers and pillboxes. So, Joe, if you can imagine what I do with the shows, that's kind of what I do with the small scale figures, is that I mount them on bases, and I buy 9x5 sections of that teddy bear fur, and then I kind of carve with barber shears roads into it, and I section it off, and I paint it different colors. It comes like the herringbone color is how it comes, and it's probably about an inch tall. So if I shave it down, it could be grass. If I leave it high, it could be like a wheat field. And I buy these scenario books for wargaming, and I just lay the battles out. So basically what I do is, remember the Civil War book, American Heritage, the Greenspan map?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, you look down at the battlefield, you see all the little figures. That's what I do. I do everything but the
I've
game.
seen
I don't
pictures.
move them. I don't roll dice and move the figures. I just like to set it up. And it goes back to what Joe was saying. I just like looking at it, just the eye candy of it.
Well, you posted pictures, I think, somewhere on the internet.
I'm
I've
very
seen,
active on
some of
Facebook.
the-
On my Facebook page, I'll post pictures of my layouts, I call them. I put them on Tree Frog Treasures in the diorama section on their forum. And then there's a number of Facebook pages that I'm active on. Toy Soldier and Model, I think it's Toy Soldier and Model Figure Fascination or something. My friend Scott Oden, I think, runs that one. And I post
Yeah,
pictures
what a
on
guy.
there. And then Rodney from Rodney's Dime Stores in Florida has different diorama pages, like Civil War dioramas, Napoleonic dioramas.
right.
So I post pictures on there too.
Well, when I ran into you at the Fredericksburg Historic Con, remember that? It was that brand new building they had built.
Yep.
God, that had been 20 years ago at least, probably. But you sold me those rubber flexible road beds. Remember?
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You had a guy that was making them. They were like 3 foot long, and you had brown and you had blue for the water.
Yep.
Dude, I still have those.
Well, the funny thing is that I was talking to him at the time about, because those were 2 inches wide for wargaming. So I said, "Can you make them wider?" And he said, "Well, how wide do you want them?" I said, "As wide as like a 1/32 scale tank." So
Yeah.
he made me a bunch of sections as a test, because he didn't think that. He goes, "Who's going to buy these?" I said, "Trust me, guys I know are going to buy these." And I brought him to Chicago. I think I had maybe 20 of them, and they lasted not even a day.
Yeah.
And I circled back to him to make more, and he just, something about the process was too involved, and when you do the pull out of the mold, because they're bigger, there was issues with the mold. But hey, I saw an opportunity, and but yeah, he was making them like, I think they were 4 inches wide.
Yeah.
At one point.
They were the coolest thing because you could lay them on top of the grass,
Yep.
just flat grass,
Yep.
instant road. And I was like, man, I bought a
Yeah.
bunch of those from you in Fredericksburg. I remember that, man.
Yeah, the war game has used them. Like a lot of these guys, they'll have like a terrain mat that'll just be all green, and then they'll get the scenario book out, and they'll lay out all the roads and the rivers and everything. And they use those flexible roads. They're made out of like a latex. And like you said, if you put pieces underneath the mat to have hills, it just lays right over it, and they're nice. They're nice pieces.
Well, while we're talking about shows, do you want to tell them about the show that I didn't see you at? The very first show when I made a trip to.
You had to bring that up, huh?
Well, I thought it was a funny story, and we were talking about it backstage.
It wasn't funny at the time because.
Oh no, it wasn't funny at the time, especially when
I
you
remember you weren't too happy. Okay, so it was when I first started my website, and I had a webmaster, and he was loading all the shows that I do, and I forget what show that was, but
it was either Matt's show in Mass, or it was your show in Denham, one of those ones. Because I was still living in Maine. In Maine.
So you drove down from Maine. So I think you texted me or you called me or something, and you said, "Hey, I thought you said there was a show today." I'm like, no, it's next week. And you said, yeah, you might want to look on your website. And I looked, and the guy had the wrong date on there. It was the fall. It was the wrong. It was a week before, and I was like, oh boy, this is not starting out well.
Yeah, that was like in 98, 99 when you first got started, and I didn't even have a cell phone, so I had to have called you from somewhere. I don't know where, but
Yeah, if memory serves me, I don't think you were too happy.
yeah. Well, when you drive 2 hours south and nothing's there, you turn around and go back.
Oh, it could have been worse. You could have gone to like the Fredericksburg show or something.
Oh, I know, right? Right.
Yeah.
Good times, man. We can laugh about it now.
Well, I'm glad you can. 'Cause I still feel bad about it.
Nah, dude, I totally forgot about it till you brought it up backstage. I was like, oh shit, I do remember that, man. That's funny.
What can I say?
If you guys any questions in the chat room, man, there's
I do. I have a question for you, George.
Oh, okay,
so,
cool.
where do you see the hobby right now? It's in its current state, and where do you see the hobby going towards in the future?
Okay, so part of the problem that I see with the hobby now is, and this is just my personal opinion for what it's worth, is that we're losing collectors, and at a rate where the people that are coming into the hobby,
Yeah.
they're not replacing them.
Right.
They're not replacing them. And the other issue is, which Paul and I were talking about earlier, not only are you losing long time, very avid collectors, you're losing dealers too. So the dealer base is shrinking. So now what happens is you go to a show and there's a couple of full-time dealers there, but the majority of the people selling are people just selling bits and pieces of their collection, which, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. But I'll never forget, there's a show used to be in Valley Forge, the Model Figure Collectors Association show.
I remember that one, yeah.
So I remember the first year I went, they could barely shoehorn me in, and I was like way down the back. I think the two lights above me had blown out, and I think I was near either the kitchen or the bathroom. I can't remember. So then they moved it several years ago to Trevos, and one of the longtime dealers, I was talking to him as we were setting up. He goes, "Hey, I want to show you something." So he pulls this planogram out from the show. He goes, "Remember the first year you went to MFCA and you were down in the corner with the blown out lights?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Here you are here. Look, Minutemen." I'm like, "Oh, wow." And then he starts pointing, at all the dealers, retired, deceased, nursing home, retired, still active, deceased, retired, nursing home. And I was like, wow. Like, it was just shocking for me to see that. And look, the hobby's always going to be here. It's not going to go away. There's still people that are passionate about it. There's manufacturers that have skin in the game and they want the hobby to continue. Is it the way it was 15 years ago? No. But the only thing constant in life, unfortunately, is change. So what you have to do as a hobby is you have to do what Paul's doing. Different ways to promote the hobby, different ways to introduce it to people, other than websites and toy soldier shows. You have to get creative. You have to think outside the box. It's kind of like, as I mentioned to you, at one point I was doing 30 shows a year, and then COVID came along. And, when that first started, I'll never forget it. It was in March. And I didn't think it was going to be, when you listen to people, oh, it's like the flu, it'll blow over. It'll get warm out in the summer. It'll be gone by the fall. And then the shows started getting canceled. Gettysburg got canceled. MFCA got canceled. The thing that really was a shock to me was, I think it was June, we got an email from Roger Garfield that Chicago was canceled. And that, I'll never forget that. It was almost like, not to, exaggerate, but it was like the day my dad died. I just sat there and said, no Chicago? How is this possible? So then I had to make a business decision. What do I do to keep the business going? If I'm not doing shows, what do I do? That's when I opened my eBay store. I basically went into my building, went from one end to the other. Every single piece of inventory I had, I just jotted it down and started loading it into the eBay store. And then I started my Facebook page. And I try to make the page interactive with a lot of pictures. I don't want to write the Gettysburg Address of a post because people are going to nod off. So pictures. Here's the new King of Country figures. Here's the new Jenkins figures. Here's the upcoming figures from First Legion. And then, I'll sprinkle in pictures of, my displays. And then I have customers that'll send me pictures of their displays and I'll put them on my Facebook page. It's just, I guess, if I had my way, things would be the way they were 15, 20 years ago, but it's not. So
Yeah.
you can either wallow in it or you can try to do something positive like
Right.
what Paul's doing.
Yeah.
The more people that you engage in the hobby, the better the chances are of it surviving rough patches.
Sure.
We were talking about this whole tariff thing and how that's impacting the dealers and the manufacturers. Okay, it can't be woe is me. You got to figure out a way around it. You got to get creative. So a lot of us are doing that. And, I wanted to call my own shot. I've been doing this 30 years. I don't want to be forced into retiring. I want to retire when I decide I don't want to do it anymore. So I'm determined that I'm not going to let this
push you into retirement. Yeah.
No,
Yeah, right.
it's not going to do it. I'm going to go out when I want to go out.
Sure.
I'm having too much fun with this. I love what I do. The thing I miss the most, because somebody asked me this a couple of weeks ago, I miss the interactions with people at the shows. I really miss Chicago. Anyone who hasn't gone, the room trading is just, you can't describe it. You just get time to talk to people and it's a social thing and everyone's there for the same reason and you can just feel. I remember when I used to walk into the Hyatt, I could just feel the juice. Like,
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be a good time and, I'd set everything up and it would take me all day and all night to do it. And then I'd sell out of the room. And then Saturday, I'd always look around at one point and say, I can't believe I got to pack all this stuff up and move it downstairs, And don't get me wrong, I sold a lot of stuff, but I still had a lot left. So then you pack it all up, move it downstairs, set it up again, and then go to bed. But I didn't really sleep because my mind was going 1,000 miles an hour. And then I go back down Sunday morning, and the energy from the crowd kept me going. I just felt that energy. And well, I will tell you though, when the show was over at 3:00, it was like somebody pulled the plug out of me. Just gassed. And then I was thinking about, now I got to drive 18 hours back to Boston. But I miss that. I miss that a great deal. Interacting with people.
Yeah.
Hey, George, what is selling best these days? King and Country, Jenkins, First Legion?
Well, I can only speak for myself, Joe. I can't speak for other dealers. But my personal experience is Jenkins has the wide. Just, I don't know how the guy does it. I mean, every month he comes out with like 40 or 50 line items from all different. Like, he keeps the series going and he keeps people interested. Like, he's doing the Battle of Bunker Hill, Battle of Cow Pens. He's doing Ancients. He's doing series. Like, he's doing the funny. I'll never forget when he told me he was going to do the Zulu War. And he's very talented. And what John does is, the natural thing would be, oh, okay, he's going to do Rourke's Drift, more Zulus, great. But no, he's doing a different battle about a relief column that gets ambushed, and there's British riflemen in, green uniforms, which, I mean, I know a lot about the Zulu War. I didn't know they had riflemen in green uniforms, but the reaction initially from people was like, more Zugus. Then he comes out with them, and now they're selling like mad. So I do very well with Jenkins. King of Country's still very strong. That's what I cut my teeth on. That's what most of my customers bought from me over the years. First Legion does tremendous product. That their vehicles are incredible. And again, he does specific battles. He just started the Battle of Kursk with Germans. He does Stalingrad. I've been at this so long, and I've got several different brands that I carry. And, if you talk to any dealer, they'll tell you 1 month, this particular company stuff sells well. The next month, it's somebody else. But they all still do well. And you've been in the hobby a long time. These companies don't go out of business. I mean, manufacturers don't go out of business. So what does that tell you? It tells you they're all selling product to somebody.
Yeah. You got some questions from the chat room, man, if you don't mind.
Okay.
George, you good?
Yep.
Paul B wants to know, he said he thinks 3D printing and gaming has kept the hobby alive. What are your thoughts on 3D printing?
Okay, so that's a great question. To answer the second part of that first, wargaming, what I'm finding is I have customers that are war gamers, like through and through. And I was telling you that, I went to Historicon way back when. I thought it was great. So one time I was doing a show in New Jersey on a Sunday. So I had all these toy soldiers with me, and I went to, it was called Cold Wars. And I was selling those roads. I had some 20 millimeter companies that I was repping at the time. And I put a few figures out because I had them with me because I was doing a show the next day. And they sold like crazy. Guys are like, what are these? I've never seen these before. So here's what's happening with the wargaming. Guys are getting older, and they're using the larger figures now for skirmish gaming. Okay, whether that's plastic that they paint, or metal, or resin that they paint. War gamers are very hands-on. They like to paint their own figures, paint their own scenery, make their own mats. So the toy soldiers in finished form, some of them like it because they don't have to paint them. They can just take them out of the box and use them in the game. As far as the 3D printing, the only thing I see with the toy soldier aspect of it is that you're giving somebody a figure that's not painted. And is that person going to paint it? Is he going to farm it out to somebody to paint for him? Whereas, the metal toy soldiers, they come painted. And you just take them out of the box and set them up. But it's funny you mentioned, the 3D printed. Again, all my figures are metal. And I have a cousin that, again, that's the one that made the phone call that changed my life, basically. He's a huge fan of 3D printing. He just thinks it's the greatest thing in the world. So what I had heard from, I have a 3D printer in England that I have like a partnership with. He does buildings. It's called Direwolf Scenics, and it's on my website. You just click on the link and it shows all the different things he can do, painted or unpainted. So I've asked him about the 3D printing, and at the time when I asked him, his concern is that the figure, in the scale that I collect, that the figures are kind of, the smaller you go, there's a chance of breakage. So I kind of stayed away from it, but I finally decided that I was going to try it. So I've got a guy in Australia right now that's printing up a bunch of 3D figures for me. And the sculpts are beautiful. There's no question that the sculpts are great. So
in 20 millimeter,
wait to me in about a week, so I'll see when I get them. But I think 3D printing has a place in the hobby for sure.
Yeah.
The build, like Joe was showing, the items that Patrick had sent him. I mean, any vehicle you want, you just plug it in and you print it out, and then you paint it. So it's got a lot of possibilities. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the only thing constant in life is change. So this is a new technology. You have to embrace it. And it may not be something that a lot of guys are going to want to do, but eventually it could be the only thing available at some point. Who knows? You just don't know. You just don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have another question from the chat room. Ronald McDonald wants to know, have you ever designed your own toy soldiers, like a set?
It's funny that he asked that question. So at one point, King and Country used to make figures. Like if you went to them with an idea, as long as it wasn't something that they had on the table, they would do it for you. And you had to agree to a certain amount. And I know there was the King and Country UK did a series on the Crimean War that was exclusive to them. I wanted to do a series on that movie Cross of Iron with all the personality figures and the Germans and the Russians. Because at the time, King and Country wasn't doing World War II Russians. So it was just kind of funny. Andy just said, yeah, no, that's probably something we're going to do down the road. So I wanted to do a set of character figures, Steiner, and the different figures in that movie. But so I actually haven't produced my own figures, but it was something that I thought about doing at one point.
Guys, questions before we lose them for the night?
Rick? No.
I remember talking with you in Chicago. Now, I don't know where it was I talked with you, but after COVID, you talked about a meeting with your accountant who just showed you the numbers for how well you were doing from the online stuff compared to the shows, and how that changed things for you and going forward. And has your business grown since COVID, or has it plateaued?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And you don't attend any shows, right? So it's strictly online.
No. Since COVID, I've been to 5 shows.
Really?
So you're talking, I didn't go in 2021 because, the vaccine wasn't available yet and all this other stuff. So I didn't go to any shows in 2021. 2022, the first show I went to was Gettysburg. Then I went to MFCA. Then the following year, I went to MFCA. And then the year after that, I went to MFCA. And then I did one wargaming show. That's been it since COVID. Wow. I really thought, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I thought COVID was going to kill it. I just felt like, this is not a necessity. It's a luxury. And I'm not doing shows anymore. And people are losing their jobs. I always am very cognizant of the fact that what I sell is a luxury. You can't eat it. You can't heat your house with it. You know what I mean? So I just said, how am I going to get around this? And then, as I mentioned, I started the eBay store. I started the Facebook page, and the business just exploded. And the opposite happened. What happened was guys were home. They were kind of depressed about what was going on. They needed something to pick them up. So they started buying soldiers like crazy. And I couldn't believe, I still can't believe how the business exploded during COVID.
I think the stimulus checks helped because people who had the money and still got the stimulus had all that money to spend on hobbies.
It was amazing to me. And it just made me feel good that, the hobby survives. The hobby moves forward. And, there's so many passionate guys out there. I've been very privileged to get to know a lot of them. And the guys just love this stuff. And, it's been in my blood since I was a little kid. And, my last name's Guerriero. In Italian, that means warrior. So it's just, everything fits for me, and like I said, I don't consider this work, if you do something you love, you never work a day in your life.
Right.
You really don't. And again, you know, going back to Joe, because, you know, he saw it up close and personal, you know, at Chicago. I just wanted to make that such a big thing, and it was so important to me, and I put everything into it, and it just gave me a great feeling of satisfaction how well received, you know, my product was and how I was. And, you know, my dad, you know, just taught me a very simple thing in life: treat other people the way you want to be treated. And every customer is important to me, and every sale is important to me, and every single one of those people got me to where I am today. And again, did I ever think I was going to be where I am? No. No. I'm not going to lie to you. Again, it was just, yeah, I'll make a few dollars and I can fund my hobby. And then it got to, you know, the funniest part about that was, so I had this accountant, and I went to him when I started selling, because I'm like, you know, what do I need to do? Like, you know, what kind of, you know, travel expenses and hotels and this and that. So he's teaching me what I have to do, and, you know, he's doing the tax return for me. So I said, I never forget when I went to him, I said, listen, I need your advice. I'm going to be doing this full time. So I'll never forget the interaction. Like, he had glasses. He takes his glasses off. He's rubbing his eyes and he's fiddling around with his laptop, and he's rubbing his, and I'm saying, what's going on here? And he goes, I just want to see if I got this straight. So these little army guys that you're selling, I go, whoa, time out. I go, they're not little bags in CVS for 99 cents. Okay. What I sell, it's a little more complicated than that. I'm not really asking you to judge what I'm doing. I'm just asking you, help me out for tax purposes, because I don't want to get audited, God forbid. So he gives me the skinny, and then about 4 years later, I go to his office every year, and he does my taxes. So he's looking through all my paperwork. Same thing. Takes the glasses off, rubbing his eyes, banging away on his laptop. I'm going, oh man, he found something. I'm going to get audited. I knew it. So he says to me, talk to me like I'm 5 years old here. I go, okay. He goes, how in the name of God are you making this much money selling toy soldiers? I said, that's what you're all bent out of shape about. Well, I don't understand this. I said, well, see, that's the problem. You don't understand it.
Yeah.
You don't understand it.
Yeah.
So the funny thing is with him
For
is
normal
that
people, it's hard to
he's
understand.
told me that he's had other clients that have had this dream. You know, I want to open a cupcake store, or I want to open a little bookstore, or, you know, I'm really good at knitting and I want to, and I need some advice. And he tells me that I always tell people that come to me wanting to start a small business, I tell them your story.
That's awesome, man.
And I was like, well, I appreciate it. So can you give me a little break on my taxes here? Because you're killing me, by the way. Your fees. But, you know, it's just, again, this is just awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
you
You're
know,
living the dream, bro. You're living the
yeah,
dream.
I just, I'm a very fortunate person. You know, there's some people that I kind of want to thank, actually. So I want to thank my cousin for making that call. Changed my life.
Yeah.
And I tell him that, and it just, you know, somebody's chopping onions in the room somewhere, you know, when I tell them that. You know, but it's true. I mean, you know, it changed my life.
Yeah, definitely.
And, you know, I really do want to thank Bill Murphy for having that store and getting me back in the hobby and allowing me to work for him and getting out to all the shows and, you know, teaching me the ropes. You know, I think a lot of Bill. He you know, he's a good guy, and he did a lot for me. And I also want to thank, you know, Jim and Dave from CTS. Again, they took a shot with me. I was a nobody, and they gave me product. And what was great was every year for Chicago, they would load me up with like the newest thing. And I'm a little conservative sometimes. I remember they came out with like a T-34, and it was a 76 turret and an 85 turret, and they were green and white. And he goes, how many of these do you want? They're brand new. And I'm like, Jim, I don't know. I mean, geez, Chicago, I don't know, maybe like 24 of each. He's like, 24 of each. You're going to the biggest show in the world. He goes, I'll send you 96 of each. And I'm like, Jim, that's crazy. I can't sell that many. I didn't have one left by Sunday.
Wow.
I blasted through all of them. So, you know, Jim's been a very good friend to me.
Yeah.
And he's a guy that I can call and talk to, and he's very knowledgeable. And like I said, he was there for me in the beginning. And also Andy Nielsen from King and Country. That was the first metal brand that I carried. And Andy did a lot for me in the beginning, and he helped me get to where I am. And also Richard Conti. You guys have no idea what it was like when he came on the scene in Chicago. I remember, the first year, I think it was the first year he was there. So it's Sunday morning, and I'm getting up, and I'm half asleep, and I hear a truck backing up because there was a ramp you had to go down to get into the lower basement. And I see this big truck, and they open the back, and all these Zulu War play sets come tumbling out. That were his. And you guys, Joe might know, but just the buzz he created, and it was.
I got the first one off that truck.
I'm telling you, you know, there's been a lot of things that have happened in Chicago that were really like wow moments. But Richard coming on the scene, and I remember going in his room when he started doing all the D-Day sets. And I mean, look at what he did. Look at those play sets he made. I mean, just incredible. And those are the people you have to thank, because those are the pioneers. And, you know, the pioneers take the most arrows. You know what I mean? And these are the guys that in the beginning, they paved the way for other manufacturers to come in. But, you know, Jim at CTS and Richard at, you know, at Conti Collectibles, and Andy, you know, I'd be nowhere without people like that. And I'd be nowhere without my customers. I love all my customers. They're such great guys, and it's my privilege to have them as customers. It really is.
Well, bro, we want to thank you for coming on the show tonight. We're over the hour mark, but I mean, I could talk to you for another hour or two, man. I mean, seriously, bro.
Oh, wait a minute. The Celtics game is on. I'm missing it.
Oh, wait. Hey, I do want to ask you at least one more question.
Sure.
Not you know, related to your business or anything. It's more personal stuff. You okay with that?
Depends what it is.
It's gonna cost you.
Give me one good childhood memory. It doesn't even have to revolve around, you know, your army men. But I mean, if that is it, then yeah. But give me one good childhood memory of playing with your toys, man. I always like to ask collectors that.
Okay, so again, we used to do these carpet battles, my cousin and I, and we had HO figures, so it's just kind of comical now when I think about it. Like, I would mark all mine underneath, because, you know, we'd combine them and do these huge battles. So we'd go over each other's house and do them. So we decided one weekend that we were going to do the Battle of Waterloo. We were going to do Quatre Bras, Ligny, Waterloo. We were going to do the fighting and you know, on the French right flank with the Prussians. So you want to talk about creative. Okay, we were using like World War I British with the soft caps as Prussians, and Washington's Army as the young guard, and British Grenadiers as the old guard. Because back then, guys today have no idea how lucky they are that collect the HO. Like, look at all the hat figures. So we did this huge battle, and we set it all up. And I'll never forget, because it's always stayed with me. So we're going down his stairs, and I just stopped, and I looked down at it. And there was hundreds of figures all set up, you know, ready to go. We had La Haye Saint, we had Hougoumont, we had the British and Squares, the whole 9 yards. And I remember thinking to myself, wouldn't it be cool if all these were all painted? How cool that would look. And now here we are, Jesus, got 50 years later. And now I'm doing that with the metal figures, you know, but that image always stayed with me. So here's the comical part about it. My cousin I love him to death. He's like, a brother from another mother, and I talk to him every day. So he's big into like past lives, and he's convinced that I was in the German army. It's because I got this thing about Stalingrad. I don't know what it is. So he's convinced I was in the German army at Stalingrad. And he's also convinced that I was in the Iron Brigade at Gettysburg because I had a thing about the Iron Brigade. So I told him, when we talk, I go, remember that when you look down, how cool that was? And he says to me, well, I can tell you why. I'm like, why? He goes, because when you were on the battlefield and you died and your soul was going to heaven and you were looking down, that's what you saw. And I said, yeah, that's really where I was. I wasn't really going there with this. Thank you for your input. I really appreciate it. Whatever medication you're on, my suggestion is you just up the dosage a little bit. But that memory always stayed with me, that panoramic view of all those hundreds of, and the Airfix figures were all like a cream color, but some of the others were different colors, but that always stayed with me, like that childhood memory and how much fun I had with it and how much fun I had, how much fun I still have. It's all about, one of the things, and not to drone on here, but I remember when I get into the business and I love the hobby first and foremost. My love for the hobby is number one. So now I'm going to do this full time. So I sat down and I wrote pros and cons. And one of the things that I was very adamant about was if my enjoyment of the hobby gets taken down a few notches by the stress of the business or being in the business, and I'm not enjoying the hobby anymore, I promised myself, I wrote it down, that I would quit the business because I didn't want to lose the joy of the hobby. And I'm happy to tell you that I'm 64 now and I love the hobby more than ever. And the business didn't impact my love for the hobby at all. But I was concerned that it might. And I promised myself that if it did, I would get out of the business. I didn't want that to ruin the hobby for me.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Dude, I'm sure you got some more stories. We're going to have to bring you back sometime, man. Do another hour,
hour,
George.
Great. I mean, I'd love to participate more on this. Absolutely.
All right, cool, man. Hope you had a good time.
Absolutely.
I'm going to bring you up big here, and this is your chance to tell everybody where they can find you online or, YouTube channel or Instagram, wherever.
Okay, so I have a Facebook page, Minutemen Toy Soldiers. My website is www.mmtoysoldiers.com. I also have an eBay store. My seller name is MM Toy Soldiers. I've got over 1,000 items on there now. Everything from metal to plastic to model kits. You name it, I've got it. So those are the platforms that I use the most. And if anyone ever has any questions or they're new to the hobby and they want to kind of get a feel as to what they should be doing or where they should be going, it doesn't cost anything to ask questions. So always feel free to reach out to me anytime. And I appreciate all my customers and all the guys that are out there now that are watching this. Thanks for your time. Thanks for allowing me to tell you my story. I appreciate it.
Very
Nice, brother.
Yeah,
Very
cool.
nice.
All right, man. So remember, Monday, there's no show, but we'll be back next Tuesday. TST, Toy Soldier Tuesday, is coming back next week, and that'll be a review of how the Gettysburg show went this weekend. So once again, I'll be at the Gettysburg show this weekend. If you guys are around, make sure you stop at my table and say hi. Other than that, George, thanks, brother. Have a good night.
Good luck at the
Thanks
show.
a lot, George.
Yeah, it was great to meet you, George.
Same here, guys. Take care of yourself.